All right, here we go. Good evening and welcome to 100 Words Mate to Mate today. My name's Craig Turton, or Turts, your proud co-host, as I am every week of this great little show. I'm one of the proud co-founders, as I said, of a men's organisation that we run called 100 Words Mate to Mate. We're a mental health organisation helping to reduce the stigma around men's mental health and the amount of men that are taking their life in this country every day. That number at the moment is nearly 7. It's horrendous, and we are trying to do what we can to help guys communicate with each other, which is a really, really important part of their mental health. So throughout any stage of tonight that we're having a chat with our great guest, if any of the subjects or at any stage you feel uncomfortable, please dial 131114. That's the number for Lifeline. There will always be someone there to pick up. We hope you don't get to that stage, but if you do, throughout this conversation, please dial that number. Now, as you join on to our little show, we want you to ask yourself, how was your day out of 10? Fill out the poll, and we'll go through some of the results later on today. Now, tonight, I am not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I am, in fact, a house painter. So what we are trying to do here at 100 Words Mate to Mate is mirror a conversation between two mates. So at either 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night, we want you to call your mate and say this: "G'day, mate, how's your day been out of 10? Or, "G'day, mate, how's your week been out of 10? There we go. We got some guys there who've had a great day. We got a few guys at 9s, 8s, 7s, all the way down to 6. So those few guys have had a 6. Hopefully by the end of this show, you'll have some great information and great insight to an unbelievable man that we're about to interview. So without any further ado, now let me just give you, this could take a while. This could actually take the whole show. Me reading out this man's CV could take a while, so get comfortable. He is no less, 4 times All-Australian footballer. He's a 3-time Trevor Barker medalist, which is the best and fairest for the St Kilda Football Club. He captained the Saints. He played 323 gut-running, intense games. He kicked 123 snags. He is one of only 9 men that have been elevated to legend status at the St Kilda Football Club. He is a super coach, a super dad, a super bloke. Was voted, written here, voted the greatest player ever to wear a helmet. Oh, where that came from. Here he is, friend of mine, Mr. Nathan Burke. How are you, mate?
Hello, Turts. Good evening, everybody. Great to, be able to speak to you all. Not quite see you all, but be able to speak to you all.
Mate, I'm also remiss of me to mention that you're also the head coach of the AFLW, Western Bulldogs. The women's team doing great stuff there. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I'm not sure whether I'm doing great stuff. We only won 1 game last year. But, that's the most important role I've got at the moment, and loving every second of that.
Good on you, mate. Now, as we do it every week at Mate to Mate, at 8, we ask this. Bergie, how was your day out of 10?
Thanks, Turts. It's a solid 8. Getting up into a 9. So I picked up a new client for June, which is huge. I had a coffee with the missus. I got out for a jog before it started raining, and I don't know whether any of you saw the rainbow that was out there today. Amazing. And I get to chat with you guys tonight. So 8's probably underestimating it, to be totally honest. But what about you, mate? How was your day out of 10?
Oh, mate, I had a big day today. It was a big day for our foundation. We got our DGR status, which means we're a registered charity, yesterday, and we had a 6.5-hour strategy meeting today. So it was good, putting a lot of things in place. We know we're helping a lot of men out there, and it's guys like yourself donating their time to do things like this that are really, really making a difference, mate. So on behalf of myself and all the boys, thank you so much. When I told them, a couple of them, you're on today, they said, "That's crap. How the hell did you get him?" I said, "Mate, Burke and I have been friends for a while. It's okay."
Yep, go way back.
Now, mate, tell us a little bit about you. And you're involved working in personal development at a high level, and the mental health sector. How did you get involved in that, my friend?
Yeah, it's a roundabout way. When I finished playing, I coached for a couple of years, discovered that wasn't a path that I really wanted to pursue. You've got to be a complete and utter football nut to go into the coaching side of it. So I got out before I got too old to do other things. And I started working with some management consultancy companies, and one called Metal Group, which was owned by John Eales, who's the ex-rugby Wallabies captain. Worked with John for 3 or so years, and then just had a real interest in how can we make people's lives better. And this may sound a little bit corny, but it's Will Smith, the actor. I read a quote that was just quite simply, if you're not making somebody else's life better, well, then you're wasting your own. And I thought, I think that's a really powerful quote. What tools have I got that can actually make someone else's life better, and also, have a lifestyle where I can pay for my 3 kids to go to school and everything else that goes along with that. And then it was just a case of, drop everything completely, start a brand new career and see if I can make a go of it. And here I am, still going sort of quite a few years later. And hopefully along that journey, I've managed to fulfill that aim of making some people's lives better, and certainly, hopefully make a bit of a difference.
Mate, that's great. I'm sure you can, you have a little toolbox of your own that you would have developed over the last, 15, 20 years of seeing so much, particularly when you started playing versus when you ended. The game has changed so much, and interaction, I'd imagine, between blokes, like your mates, will have changed dramatically from the day you started, I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely. To say that it was very much surface-based conversations at the start is probably an understatement. Even if we knew players were going through problems, it was very reluctant to actually get involved. It was a case of, mate, just man up, push on, and you'll be fine.
Suck it up.
And we didn't speak about that stuff at all. But thankfully now, we've come so far in that space of, when I started just over 30 years ago, we've come such a long way now where we're going to have discussions like we're going to have tonight. But I think I'm sort of thankful for the journey on the way through. And every concept that I try and get across to my clients is based around something that worked for me, that helped me along that journey. And you mentioned the word toolbox there before, and that's the way I look at it. I've got a toolbox full of concepts. Some of them work for me, some of them don't. I've tried meditation, laying on the floor with candles. We had to do that one year, 1998. Stan Alves got us all to learn how to meditate and lay on the ground before training. And basically all we did was we fell asleep before training, and then we went out and trained terribly. But that didn't work for me, but it's still in my toolbox. It might work for somebody else. And what I encourage people to do is to develop that little toolbox of concepts that might work for you, but also when you have discussions with someone and say, hey, it's your day out of 10, and they say it's a 2, well, then you can whip something out of your toolbox and say, hey, mate, have you tried this? Have you tried that? So that's basically what I do. If people saw me play, they wouldn't have seen me taking speckies or zigzagging around people and kicking long bombs from 60 metres out. That wasn't me. I had to develop other skills to be consistent, to get a game week in and week out. And a lot of the concepts I get across helped me be that type of player that I needed to be.
I've just got this envisaged in my head of Stan saying, hey, plugger, get on your ass. I've got some candles here, and shut your eyes. I can just imagine Plugger's response to that.
No, Plugger had gone by then. He was up in Sydney.
He probably knew it was going to happen.
You can imagine what Peter Everett Barry Hall's response was to doing that. So, it didn't go down that well.
I can well imagine. Now, so there's a classic case. So, as you say, you built up this amazing resilience and toolbox over the last 30 years that you can empower young men now. I don't know if the young men now are going to have that same sort of changing journey. Like it's a lot better for them per se that they're more open. I don't know if you would have found that dealing with young blokes. They're a lot more open now than what they would have been back in the day.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And it was probably a good thing that they didn't start where we started to end up where we are now. And a lot of my programs are termed resilience programs. And the standard definition of resilience is bouncing back. Shit hits the fan, got to bounce back. I think that's very reactive. I'd much prefer to think of resilience being a set of skills that you practice and apply all the time. And you can use before a challenge arises, during the challenge, and out the other end. And if you get really good at it up the front, well, then potentially some of those challenges may not be as bad as they otherwise would have been. So that's the way even when I'm working with the young guys and they think their life is going to be, fantastic, and they're not going to have those really challenges come up, trying to get them to the point of understanding that, yes, but if you get really good at this stuff now, even though you don't think this stuff's going to happen to you, probably will, and it'll be much easier for you. And try to get it across that way, because a lot of them think they're bulletproof at the moment.
I can well imagine in an industry like the AFL, but that happens in everyday life, mate. There's guys that out there that think they're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, but it's not the case. So giving them a sense of tools to be able to, as you say, work on and have in their arsenal, even before it hits the fan. And that's such an important thing. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to have gone downhill before you start rowing in the other direction.
Yeah, exactly. And the biggest one that I'm concerned about, especially with professional sports people, is the main reason why they struggle when they finish playing is because they're basically their whole identity is being a footballer. And they might get, if they're lucky, they get to 30 years of age, and then they've got to try and understand, well, if we take away this big thing of being a footballer, well, then who am I? And they struggle to find out what that is. So we need them right at the very start of their journey to keep working on who they are besides being a footballer. And very, very quick story I'll relay here is that, as I said before, my thing of being a footballer was just being a competitive bugger. Yeah. Doing the things that other players didn't want to do. I'd tag someone or play in the back pocket or do the team stuff. If I did that really well, I'd get a game week in and week out. And it was working. Except a couple of years in, I found myself in a cycle that a lot of just average business people find themselves in these days. And the cycle was, if we won a game on the weekend, that gave me license to be happy for the rest of the week. Go out with the mates, go out with the girlfriend, everything be fine. If we lost a game on the weekend, well, then I was pretty much a grumpy bugger for the whole week, just waiting for that chance to be competitive again. And everyday people, we find ourselves in the cycle of, if good things happen to us at work, well, then that's a good day.
Yeah.
And if bad things happen to us at work, we might lose a client, something might go wrong. Well, that's a bad day. And we want people to own what is a good day and a bad day and not to be reliant on things outside of their control. So I get people to do an exercise, which a sports psychologist got me to do, is write down all the things that you are besides actual your sport. So to me, football is what I did. It wasn't who I am. So I wrote down, I was a son, I was a brother, I was a boyfriend, I was a student, I was a mate, I was myself. That just opens up your eyes to you are a lot of things. And then how important each of those roles out of 10. And then write down how much energy am I putting into those roles. And I guarantee you'll get a gap between importance and energy. And that's where you need to then place your attention. For me, simple one, my girlfriend at the time was a 9 out of 10 important. She was a keeper. And my energy after we lost a game was about a 3. I thought, if we lose a bunch of games in a row, which is highly likely to happen in the late 80s, she might not put up with that, and off she goes. So he encouraged me to do one thing. Don't try and change your life. Just do one thing. So Sunday morning, we lost on Saturday. We went down to a market down in Frankston, down in the Mornington Market, the Royal Hotel for lunch, and had a wonderful day. And I actually turned up for training the next day in a far greater frame of mind than actually if I had been sulking for the whole day. And that was a catalyst. I guarantee you I would not have lasted 17 years at the Saints if I hadn't been able to maintain perspective in that football is just what I do. It's not who I am, and put energy into being that brother, that student, that mate, that boyfriend, all the other things in my life, which is really, really important to me.
That's a really good thing, because you're right. A lot of people's identity is based on who they do, how much they earn, where they live. And you're right. It's taking that time to go, okay, so I'm, whatever I do, but I'm also all these other things, and a lot of guys our age, obviously fathers, that's such an important thing. And then it's, how we perceive ourselves and how our family perceives us and the time we spend there is of such importance. But you're right. You have a crap day at work, doesn't mean you should come home and be a shit dad. You can be you can be an amazing dad.
Absolutely. We've got
that presence of stopping and going, okay.
Exactly. And that's, I do a bit on choosing your attitude. And I've got some people I work with now, and they've told their families that when I drive in the driveway at night, don't stress, don't panic. I may not come straight in. There's nothing wrong. What I do is I sit there, close my eyes, be present, and think, right, what's the best attitude for me to have when I walk in that house with my family and my kids? Is it to carry my baggage with me? Is it to go, I've had a bad day, just leave me alone, let me know when dinner's ready? Or is it to go, you know what? I cannot control what's gone on in the past right here, right now when I walk inside. I'm going to sit here, let it wash over me, close my eyes, breathe, whatever it takes, walk inside, and then how do I want to be with my kids? I want to smile when I see them. I want to give my wife a kiss and a hug, or my partner when I see them. It's the first thing I'm going to do. And understanding that half an hour of being present with your family is more powerful than being at home for 4 hours when your mind's still at work. It's far more powerful. And so just getting yourself into that right frame of mind. So a lot of it is having the courage to control what goes on between your ears and not give that license. The ability to control what goes on between your ears, it's the most powerful thing each and every one of us have. Yet we give that power to things outside of our control all the time.
It's all about attitude, isn't it? We talked about this the other day when we talked about Neil Danaher, and his attitude is that you might take away this horrendous disease he's got, will take away his ability to be able to move and speak, but that won't change. You can't take his attitude.
No.
So his attitude is what he can control.
Yeah, exactly. And I learned this in the early 90s. We had a guy named Bob Proctor came to the football club. One of our rich supporters paid for him to come all the way from the States to talk to the team. And to say that Bob was losing us early is probably an understatement. He had us chanting, and we had to get up and hug the person next to us. And this is where Tony Lockett comes in. I had to turn to my left and try and hug Tony, and the arms were folded, and made it sure very quickly that there's no hugging going on here. And then Bob said, who can tell me what an attitude is? And we were just a bunch of dumb footballers. We had no idea. We're coming up with something. And basically said it's the composite of your thoughts, feelings, and actions, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you act. That is your attitude. And in all of these studies of successful business people, sporting people, musicians, artists, the common denominator is that they are very good at choosing their own attitude, choosing the way they think, feel, and act. And the ability to do that is, as I said, the most powerful thing that each and every one of us own. Yet we are so good at giving that to things outside of our control all the time. Things like traffic. We get frustrated and angry and mad and pent up at traffic. Well, unless you can clear the roads in front of you, does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. And you've got to understand that you are actually traffic. You are traffic to other people. So it doesn't make sense. But does that mean you never ever get frustrated, mad, or angry? No, it's not. You can choose those emotions. They are appropriate emotions, but the power that you've got is when you choose that emotion, you can choose how long you have it for. So I get frustrated sitting in traffic because sometimes that feels good. But when I drive in the driveway, that frustration doesn't come with me. I've chosen frustration. Now I'm going to choose another attitude. And it's a really powerful thing. So that's level one, I call it. After something happens, choosing your attitude.
Yeah.
There's level two attitude choosing, which is choosing an attitude before something happens. Now, this is sports people need to know this. You can't go into a game thinking, geez, we're going to get flogged today.
Yeah.
Guarantee you get 2 goals down, you're thinking, okay, floodgates, that's it, we're gone. If your attitude is, you know what, on any given day, we're a good team. We're playing a really good team, but on any given day, we're pretty good ourselves. Yeah. When you get 2 goals down, you're not thinking, floodgates, we're gone. You're thinking, you know what, it's half time. We can change a couple of things around, do some things differently in the second half. We can kick 3 goals in a half, and we can come back and win this game. So I call it a useful attitude. So choosing the right way to think, feel, and act before something happens. If you're a salesperson, you've got to choose the right attitude before you pick up that phone to talk to someone, before you do the presentation. Or if you've got to go and talk to a client who's a bit of a pain in the ass, you've got to choose the right attitude before you go and talk to them. It's a skill it gets you off that roller coaster of something bad happens, you're down here. Something good happens, you're up here. Something bad happens, you're down here. That's tiring. That's exhausting, being on that roller coaster.
Absolutely. I remember I read once that Tiger Woods, if he hit a bad shot, he would, the first 10 paces, he would berate the crap out of himself. Tiger, you're useless. Tiger, you're this. Tiger, you're that. But when he put his right foot down on the 11th step, he said, Tiger, you're still the best. The last 7 tee shots you've hit have been magnificent.
Yep.
We're still going down the fairway 330 metres, and this is what we're going to do when we get there.
Yep.
So he chose to treat those first 10 steps, bang, 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 get it out, but then spent the next 310 metres saying exactly what you're talking about, being present in the moment and telling himself, no, it's still okay. We're going to be all right. We're still the best.
Yeah.
They're chasing us. We've got them covered. And just reiterating that really positive information. So that is an unbelievable tip. When you come home from work and you've had a shit day, just sit in the driveway for 5 minutes and think about the attitude you were going to take inside. That is a really, really good message, mate. And people who are listening to this and watching this, they should try that. I think that'd be one of the go-to things for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you're one of these people who drive home from work, they drive in their driveway and they think, shit, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah.
Did I go through that? Was that a red or a green light? I don't actually remember the whole drive home.
Yeah.
If you're one of those people, normally you probably got your sympathetic nervous system going. That's really tiring. It's the old fight or flight. Just sitting there a minute, 2 minutes, closing your eyes, breathing, getting yourself into your parasympathetic nervous system. That's where your body heals itself. That's if you're in that sympathetic nervous system the whole time, you might not have done a lot of exercise, but you're completely drained. You're drained of energy because your body's working harder than what it actually needs to work. So that being present, getting yourself out of that sympathetic nervous system. That's when you can make good decisions. That's when the part of your brain that makes good decisions can actually flick on. All the blood isn't out at your extremities. When we used to get chased by bears, that was really handy for us. We don't get that anymore. Yes. So, but we get that sort of feeling when we have to have a difficult conversation or there's an issue that we need to deal with. You've got that knot inside your stomach. That's when that phenomena kicks in, and we've got to recognise that and have strategies to get ourselves out of it.
So it's really important, like, to take it back to a football terminology. Like, it's like getting to 12 o'clock during the day and you've had a shocking morning. Yep. No different than coming in at half time, being 8 goals down. You have 2 options. Yep. Either you get spanked by 15 or you actually stop and do something about it and have a crack.
Yep. From that point on. Absolutely. And I have a saying that not every day is a great day, but something good happens every day. And that's great. Yeah, and you can only truly live that if there are parts of your day where you are present. Yeah. And some people, I have a trigger. I carry a coin in my pocket. When my daughter played soccer over in the UK, it's an English coin, carried in my pocket. Put my hands in my pocket a lot throughout the day. And when I feel it, that's my trigger to stop and go, right, what good stuff has happened today? Sitting here this afternoon, saw the rainbow, called the kids, went outside. If you're Facebook friends with me, you would have seen that I posted a video of it. But if my mind is a week ahead or a week behind, I'm going to miss that. So even if my day was a bit of a 2 out of 10, I've still seen something good. And that's what you've got to understand. It is something good. We just need to be able to stop and flick on that part of our brain that notices all that sort of stuff.
But that's about gratitude, isn't it, Berkey, as well? Just stopping and, as simple as, hey, there's a rainbow outside. Girls, come outside and have a look.
Absolutely. And I learned that. I walked to Dakota track. We haven't got time. It's a longer story. But I noticed the people of Papua New Guinea who live out in the jungle think completely differently to the way I was thinking. And I'm not ashamed to say. My porter, who was carrying my heavy stuff for me, kept coming up and saying, Berkey, great shoes, Berkey, good shoes, Berkey, good shoes. I look at him, his name was Bradley. Bradley's got these old runners with his toes hanging out the side. This was 10 years ago. And my first thought was, I'm a bit ashamed to say, was I better tie these suckers in a double knot to my bag when I go to sleep at night. I don't fancy them going walking out and me walking 96 Ks with bare feet. But in the end, what I discovered, Bradley was pointing at my shoes saying, good shoes, not because he wanted them, just because he was genuinely happy that I had something good that was going to help me get over those 96 Ks through the mud and the trees and everything else. He was just happy that I had something good. And number one, I was ashamed by the way that I was thinking. Number two, it made me do some research when I came back. And the research tells me that our society, guys, was 7 times more likely to notice a negative than a positive. Something bad happens at work, you'll hear about that 7 times more quickly than if, you know, a client rings in and says, hey, good job. They ring in and say, hey, bad job. Well, then that'll spread like wildfire. I've got a mate who's a newspaper editor. I put this theory to him and he said, yeah, you're right. We sell more newspapers with a bad news story on the front.
No doubt.
And I said, what happens if you haven't got a bad news story? He said, well, you know, we'll make something sound worse than what it actually is. We'll make it up. It has to be a super good news story to get on the front because we sell more papers.
Yeah.
I reckon that's a shocking way to live. And the only way to get around that is to practice, noticing the good stuff, the gratitude throughout the day. You can do it by just generally stopping and saying thank you. A lot of people do stuff for you throughout the day that we don't stop and say thank you for. Saying thank you reinforces that something good has happened. Having that trigger to stop at certain parts throughout the day. Or if you're a journal type person, you might want to write down 3 things at the end of the day. I've got a thing on Facebook, if you're Facebook people, it's called the Thankful Plan. And basically all you do is you go to the Thankful Plan, you press follow or like, and I will put together a quote or a picture or something that will pop up in your feed every single day. And that's your trigger to stop and go, right, yeah, Berkey's put up that quote. I like it. I don't like it. But what good stuff happened today? And it just, as we know, our brains are like muscles. The more you use certain parts, the stronger that they get. So we need to strengthen that part that notices the good stuff that's going around us. And the Thankful Plan is just one way of doing it.
Mate, we've got the big thing for me is that stopping and being present. That is key, isn't it?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how you do it. If you're a vicious type of person, you know, set your clock on your phone to do it every now and again, or to trigger every time I get in the car. You know, I'm not going to start the car for 30 seconds. And just have a look around, see what I can see. As I said, I've got the thing in my pocket, and every time I feel that coin, that's my time to stop. A lot of people wear wristbands. You've got the blue, you know, mate ones on there. A lot of people wear those. They're just triggers. When I see that, well, that's my trigger to just stop, breathe, be present.
I must admit, I tend to use it. I'll be at work and we'll just painted a wall or doing something. I'll just sit there like this.
Yep.
And the boys will go, what are you thinking about, Turts? And I'll just go, you know what, I think I'm having a shit day. But gee, there's a lot of people out there who are struggling, mate. So just this is that just reminder of, mate, it's going to be okay. Just stop and be present in where you are and what you're doing and be grateful for the opportunities that you have. Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're there at a job, working with people that you like, doing a job that you like, you know, getting paid for it. There's a lot of people that would love to be in that spot.
Absolutely. Now, mate, we've got to die out. I'm recognising a few names on the questions here. A cheeky one from a mate of mine, Russell, says, mate, what was the reason for the helmet?
Yeah. Go on, Russ. Now, I had an issue where I used to get blurred vision, nausea, like a migraine after I got a whack. Yeah. And Kenny Sheldon was coach. You had guy Kenny talk to you, man, marvellous man. Kenny just kept saying, look, I can't afford to play you when you're coming off all the time for, you know, because you can't see. And you've got to try something. So it was a case of, you know, try a helmet, look silly, wasn't what I wanted to do, or not play football. At the end of the day, it was an easy decision. So I still had the issue through hits in the nose, and as you can see, I had one or two of those in the chin. But certainly the helmet stopped my form. At the time, they diagnosed it as a form of migraine. But what we know now about concussion is that it was actually a form of concussion, that the symptoms was very similar to a migraine. So I had the nausea and the headaches and that after the game. So basically it was to avoid that happening and keep being able to play footy.
Yeah, wear the helmet or don't play.
Pretty much, yep.
Not a tough decision to make in the end.
No.
Now, from a good mate of mine, Jeremy, culture has always been a question at St Kilda. What is your take on the culture whilst you played there?
Yeah, culture, look, I came into a culture, and what you do is, as a young player coming into a culture, basically everybody wants to fit in. And so what you do is over time, it takes a very, very strong character to stand up and go, hang on, this is not the way to actually do things. And in probably the late 80s to the mid 90s, we actually just folded in and perpetuated parts of the culture that weren't conducive to being elite sports people. There was a bit of a catalyst. End of 95, Danny Frawley, amazing man, 9 years captain, responsibility purely on his shoulders, retired. Our best player, Tony Lockett, went to Sydney. Another couple of senior players retired. In return for Tony going, we got 4 young players: Tony Brown, Joel Smith, Matty Lappin, and Austin Jones. The football world said, they were 17-year-olds. Football world said, you're going to be in the wilderness for 5-6 years. Saints are rebuilding. There was a couple of old guys like Stuart Lowe and myself. We were 26, 27, Robert Harvey at the time, old fellas. We said, we can't wait 5-6 years. We're going to be gone. So what we did was we set about a culture change program and understanding what culture is. Culture is quite simply the way we do things around here. And some of the ways that we were doing things weren't conducive to success. And so we changed our symbols. Instead of the symbol being the talented player like a Tony Lockett who didn't train hard but got by on natural talent, the symbol had to be a Robert Harvey. Didn't have a lot of natural talent but trained his arse off. So we had to put Robert up on a pedestal now and say, hey, you young guys, if you want to be good, be like halves. We had to change the way that we communicated. And it was no longer just hiding behind humour and saying, oh, did you bring the paper with you if someone was late? It was, no, being late's not good enough. Yeah. And have really open conversations. Our behaviours near enough was no longer good enough. We had to have immediate conversations about that sort of stuff. So really identified the parts of our culture that weren't working. So at the end of 1995, we were 14th out of 16 teams. At the end of 96, we were 10th out of 16 teams. The end of 97 in the home and away, 2 years into the process, we were on top of the ladder. So finished the home and away season on top. Lost the grand final, as we all know. I'm not going to go into that. But from being in the wilderness to playing the grand final purely came not through recruiting a whole bunch of talented senior players. It was getting the culture right of the football club. So it's wavered on and off over the years, but I'm a firm believer that you get the culture right, then you'll fulfill whatever talent that you've got and probably exceed it.
How much of culture is attitude?
Yeah, basically everything is controlled by what goes on between your ears. What goes on between your ears affects how you act, how you think, what you say. And so we needed to teach people what the right thing to do was, and then the attitude to actually do that. Some players couldn't do it. And without speaking out of school, eventually players like Peter Everett and Barry Hall, 2 all-Australian footballers, talented as all get out, they didn't quite have the maturity and the attitude to fulfill the culture that we wanted. And they both self-selected themselves out of there. They said, this is too difficult for us. We're going to go somewhere else. Yeah. And that's okay. That's fine. If you get the culture right, that will happen. And that's a good sign that you're getting the culture right.
Yeah, so if you don't like it, off you go. Feel free to leave.
Yep.
But then we are not accepting that sort of behaviour from this point on.
Yeah, the culture is more important than the talented individual.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mate, we've got one here from Luke Donovan. I knew he'd watch tonight. He's a mad St Kilda man. 25 years Saint member here, Berkey. I absolutely loved your commitment to the ball and the team that you played. The day in 93 in Victoria Park, the day the famous Nicky Winmar photo ended at the end of the game. Where were you? What happened on the day whilst you were playing? What was your recollection of the day? And did you realise everything was going on? Obviously a bit topical now. I don't want to sort of, too much, but
probably didn't realise Nicky was going through what he did. Basically, it was just a standard Victoria Park game. You ran down the race and you got spat on. You got
wet.
Yeah, and the bench was just a bench on the fence. There was no sort of overhang or anything like that. Yeah. And it's funny thing, the day stands out for me a little bit because Danny Frawley was running along the boundary line and he got hit in the head by half a pie. And it just got him square in the face. I can still picture it right now. And we had to try and hold him back from jumping the fence and trying to get some old lady.
Eric Cantona style.
Yeah, exactly. So we didn't sort of realise the extent of it until the photo appeared the next day in the paper. You know, we were just jubilant at the time because we hadn't actually won at Victoria Park for years and years and years. And so we had a good win. So we were pretty much euphoric. But, certainly that was one of those symbolic days that pretty much changed football for ever and a day.
Absolutely. And we're still dealing with it as we speak, my friend.
Yep.
Mate, I just want to touch on also the you've got an ebook out and about sports parenting. So you've agreed so kindly to come back in sort of 3 or 4 weeks to talk about the importance of dads and fathers in their kids' junior sport, and we talked about how your kids going isn't a reflection on the way you should be.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's just a passion of mine. My girls played soccer originally, and the ethos of soccer was very much give me your kids, go away, and pick them up at the end of the night, but don't have anything to do with them. To me, sport offers so much learning opportunities for kids. You know, how to cope with success, with failure, with winning, with losing, with perseverance, with how to actually develop a skill, how to be a good team member. All of those things, they are such important skills in life. I'm sorry, I'm not going to hand those important skills over to some person. I also think that I'm an ex-school teacher. If there's any school teachers on the line, they'll hopefully agree. The kids who perform best at school are the ones whose parents take an interest in their schooling. They set up good study habits. They go to parent-teacher nights. They don't try and teach the kids how to do maths, but they're involved in their learning. And the parents who are involved in their learning, those kids perform best. Why isn't it exactly the same in sport? Yeah. As a parent, I don't go out and teach my kids this fine specific skills of how to kick a soccer ball and how to catch the ball, that sort of stuff. But I need to be involved and around the areas of, being in the team, not being in the team, winning, losing. I need to be involved in that. And if I'm involved at the right level, so the whole ebook is around what's being over-involved look like and what does being under-involved look like. Because I firmly believe that every parent wants to do the right thing by their kid, but what is the right thing? No one really tells us. And sporting clubs are good at putting up signs now saying, these are just kids and, leave them alone. That's great, but there's so much more to it. What do you say to the kid on the car ride home when they've just had a stinker? What do you say on the car ride there? What do you do when they don't miss out? How do you build confidence? How do you motivate? All that sort of stuff. So I just sat down, dumped it all out there, and it's available on the website if anyone is keen. But I think parents should be involved. You can't absolve such an important part of life to somebody else.
Absolutely, mate. And so as I said, in sort of 3 or 4 weeks, mate, I'd love to have you back on to go, and we'll just spend a whole night on that, just going through, because come July 11, junior footy goes back in the Yarra Valley region here that I'm involved in. So, mate, that'd be unbelievable insight to have you, and just to reset with parents, because we've all missed our sport for such a long period of time, that we don't come back and put too much emphasis on what is going to be a short season. And let's not get it off on the wrong foot. Let's get on the right foot. And I think a friendly reminder by someone like yourself, mate, will be a great thing for us to do.
Yeah, the aim is to get them to love sport and you at the same time.
Correct.
Not to love you and hate sport, or to hate sport or love sport and hate you. That's
or just do it to please you. They're going to do it because they want to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Hear about that a fair bit. Mate, Berkey, thank you so much for tonight. I really, really appreciate your time. I hope I've bumped you up from an 8 to a 9, mate.
Yep, absolutely. Solid 9.
You're a good man. Really, really appreciate it. It's an absolute thrill for myself, Walt, and all the boys at 100 Words to get someone of your calibre on, mate. I really appreciate your time. And I'll give you a call during the week, and we will nut out something for 3 or 4 weeks' time.
Absolutely. Love to come back and have a chat. So thanks, anyone who turned up and listened. Much appreciated.
Berkey, you're a star. Thank you very much, mate.
Thanks, Turts.
Thank you. Oh, what a thrill. What a thrill for a guy who's 47 years old, who was fat and slow on the football field, and to interview a man like that. Awesome. That was a real thrill for me. Real thrill. Now, as we do each week, we thank those who do so much for us. Shelley Wood does the most of anyone I know. Shell, you're a star. We love how much you do for us. We're so appreciative of all your time, effort, and work. We love you. To Matt Atkin at Atlas Equipment Finance and 61 Finance and the team there do a huge amount for us, and we are so grateful for their time and effort. And to a dear friend of mine, Mr. Brett Phillips, who runs the only tennis show in this country, the First Serve, on SEN throughout this country of ours. Does an amazing job. If anything about tennis in the world, he's your man. Does a great deal for us, and we really, really appreciate it. To my unbelievable producer who puts up with me every week and does such a great job behind the scenes because I'm computer illiterate. Thank you to Waltz. To all the teams, we had a great day today at 100 Words. We got our charity DGR status, which is huge for us. We had an unbelievable strategy meeting today. We are putting so many things together for you guys, the members and the men of this community of ours, and all over the country. So get involved in everything we do. We're here to help you as much as we can. And there's just so many people out there that are going through mental health issues, and we are here to help. So on behalf of myself and everyone at 100 Words, have a great week. I hope it's a 10 out of 10. And we'll see you next week. Take care.